Alrighty, to round out this day of videos and updates, there's basically the season of their second half of the season update, which I'll go over a few things right here, which it'll entail pretty much everything that changed in this blog post from Destiny about update 7.3.5. So starting off with some activity changes for the Crucible, fix an issue causing crests to bounce on water in Supremacy, alter the way the experimental snake draft lobby balancer handles fire teams, updated the playlist tooltips to correctly display which matchmaking style is used for each mode. So if you don't know what that means, basically a lot of the stuff they talked about in prior This Week in Destiny updates, a lot of those matchmaking adjustments have come by, at least the ones that have been mentioned for this update. On maps, they tuned lots of spawning as well as heavy ammo crates and tiebreaker zones on all maps, as well as just general spawning quality of life and addressing spawn traps for Eternity and Fortress, and remove backfield spawns for everything that is not Rift for the Citadel, Cathedral Dust, Disjunction, and Convergence. So if you don't know what backfield spawns is, basically if enemies are starting to push spawns a little bit, there's a chance that instead of spawning on the other side of the map, that you might spawn in the backfield, which, to put in perspective, if over here was the enemies starting to push and then over here was the backfield, basically you would spawn super far back and that would reduce chances of getting forward, in case you were curious. Then for game modes, they moved 3v3 Clash to the 3v3 Quick Play Rotator and updated the rules. Heavy ammo is no longer shared. Respawn timer increases from 5 seconds to 7 seconds. Match timer increased to 10 minutes. Score to game remains at 40 kills. They added Collision, a new 3v3 King of the Hill game mode to Crucible Labs, currently active. A single larger zone will rotate between 5 points around the map on a timer. Capturing and controlling that rotating zone will earn team points. This mode will also feature a test on alternative special ammo crate system. The special ammo crate system will feature 4 shareable ammo crates that will spawn simultaneously at the beginning of a round or game and then on a timer afterwards. Each control zone location, A, B, and C, will also have associated ammo crates, and the 4th crate will be in a neutral location. Players who currently have special ammo will drop special ammo bricks upon defeat. And Iron Banner Tribute has been reworked. Simplified objectives and scoring, changed the trigger for the hunt from depositing maximum crests to a team score threshold. User experience improvements decreased the distance at which crest icons can be seen. Reworked how quickly the beacons despawn and rotate. Significantly decreased the time it takes to dunk crests. Reduced the number of turrets that spawn when the hunt began from 4 to 3. Removed the visual indicator, aka wall hacks, on players carrying max crests. Lots of Crucible changes here, so if you get bored, go ahead and skip ahead. But competitive added a 3rd tier to the competitive weekly challenge with a new reward for Artifice Armor. This tier is unlocked for all players who reach Gold 3 or above each season. This tier requires match victories instead of completions. Upon completing of the challenge, each victory thereafter has a chance to drop Artifice Armor, and the drop rates increase alongside a player's rank. Drop rates are based on a player's highest rank achieved of the season, not their current rank. Competitive matches will also have an increased chance to drop exotic weapon catalysts on victories. For Trials of Osiris, updated the 50% chance to get a Trials weapon on wins to always drop the weekly weapon reward to better allow for targeted farming of the specific weapon a player wants. Added rewards on max completions for 3-person fire teams gated on participation. An additional 50% chance to drop the non-adept Trials weekly weapon. A 50% chance at a Trials engram and additional Trials reputation. Trials passages, they updated the Passage of Ferocity, so if a player hasn't been flawless for the week, then loses after 3 wins, will reset them back to 3 wins instead of flawing their card. Basically, a way that people can get flawless per week without losing. And then Passage of Persistence, losses following a win will remove the win from a player's card. Consecutive losses do not remove additional wins. Getting to 7 wins grants a drop of the weekly Adept, regardless of how many losses the player has taken. Basically, you could win 3 games, lose a game, and go back. But if you continue to lose, you won't lose it again. But then go up to 5 wins and repeat that and lose once, then you're going to be stuck at 4 wins and, along that line. So it's a lot easier to at least earn a weekly weapon. It may take 50 games, but if you get 7, you get 7. Added 2 weapons to the Trials of Osiris weapon rotation. The Summoner Auto Rifle and its Adept will be featured for the first time during the week of March 12th, so next week. And the Prophet Scott Rifle in its Adept version will be featured in Trials of Osiris during the week of March 19th, the following week. For Iron Banner, when it comes back around, they added 2 weapons to Iron Banner rewards starting April 2nd, the Tusk of the Boar grenade launcher and the Multimach CCX submachine gun. One of those are new, the SMG is not returning. For the Nightfalls, they added 2 weapons to the Nightfall pool rotation. The Wild Style grenade launcher and its adept will be featured currently, so aka when this is live, as well as the Slammer sword and its adept variation will be featured the week of March 19th. Now, keep in mind, Wild Style is double fire. It is the first of its kind. The Slammer, it does look like that old one from Season 11. I forget what it's called, but the Vortex frame that was really good back then. But it looks just like it and is also another Vortex frame. It's hard to say whether or not it will have anything good. For Gambit, fixed an issue where an incorrect hive variant spawning. Incorrect. Okay, that's a weird word. Prophecy, the weapon pool has been updated. All the added and updated weapons below will be given the new origin trait of crossing over. These weapons have increased range and handling for the top half of the magazine, while rounds from the bottom half of the magazine deal increased damage. Now, I imagine it's not that much considering that could be broken along the line. They removed the Swift Verdict sidearm, Long Walk sniper rifle, and the Last Breath auto rifle. In exchange, they added a few things. These weapons will be added to the pool and receive all new perk pools, and in some cases, new damage type. The Prosecutor auto rifle will be a primary precision frame arc auto rifle. The Adjudicator will be a primary precision kinetic submachine gun. The Relentless pulse rifle will be a primary high impact strand pulse rifle. The updated ones will be the Judgment hand cannon that is staying. It is now stasis instead of kinetic, a adaptive frame hand cannon, mind you. The Darkest Before is still a rapid-fire pulse rifle, but it is now solar, and the Sudden Death Shotgun, still aggressive frame, is now void. And for Warlord's Ruin, the correct nameplate now appears when the boss spawns during traversal. Fixed an issue where during the Ogre encounter, where killing the Wardens quickly could soft lock the player. That's an oopsie. For UI and UX, Gunsmith engrams are now listed in the engram wallet. Fixed an issue where some multiplayer emotes would not display their current interaction dialogue. For accessibility, players now are able to change the location of their reticle regardless of platform, center or below center in the gameplay settings menu. Added controller dead zone settings in the controller settings menu. Players are now able to adjust the opacity of the radar background in the character settings menu. For Fireteam Finder, there's lots of stuff that got updated here. Fixed an issue where the create a list button would would incorrectly say the player's listing title and tags would reset when reselecting the same activity. Fixed an issue where the names of players joining Fireteam Finder lobbies were not displayed in the group text chat. Improved activity selection for activities that players may not have access to yet in their progression, notifying them earlier in the selection process the requirements to have it available. Basically, if you try to join a raid you do not have access to, you'll be told that you do not have access to it before you get right there. Fixed an issue where the Fireteam Finder application pop-up would freeze while it was being accepted. Fixed an issue where listing tags and minimum Guardian rank filter categories were reset after closing the filter screen. Improve search flow by adding feedback where there are active filters applied to the view listings page. Fixed an issue where search filters were not being reset when choosing another activity. Private match titles in Fireteam Finder lobbies now include the activity's name. Improved error messaging when players are unable to join a lobby or apply to a listing. Fixed an issue where stale information was being shown when reselecting activities. Added visual impairment tag in the listing tags option. Fixed an issue where the tooltip on roster contacts was incorrectly displaying Finding Fireteam when not in Fireteam Finder. Fixed an issue where the text would be stretched or spaced incorrectly in the Fireteam Finder text chat. And lastly, fixed an issue where the application modal stayed down if a player was looking at it while it was accepted. Now, a few adjustments to gameplay and investment. This is some Sandbox adjustments. Prometheum's Spur got a fix where solar weapon kills were not providing the correct amount of Rift energy both inside and outside of the Rift. Balador's Wrath Weavers got fixed where the armor was providing bonus stasis damage when using non-stasis supers. Apotheos's Veil fixed an issue where Insatiable could be applied when casting super with relic weapons. Fixed an issue where the Dark Age of the Wormguard armor sets were appearing in the appearance screen before being earned. And fixed an issue where the artifact mod Revitalizing Blast failed to apply a weaken when using Consecration. Woo! Now, there's a bunch of Sandbox changes here that I was going to talk about, but there's lots of individual stuff. So, I'm just going to steadily scroll by, and if you want to take pictures of anything, go ahead. For special ammo acquisition, all players will start every game with 2 kills worth of special ammo for their chosen weapon. Instead of 2 kills worth of special ammo being granted every time a player respawns, this will earn
they will earn more ammo by filling up the special ammo meter, which is given for getting kills, assist, objectives, getting 100 points grants 2 kills worth of special ammo. Basically, there is ways to snowball and get permanent special ammo. Kills from special ammo weapons do not grant any points towards special ammo meter progress. Jumping off the map will subtract progress from this meter. Ammo is not dropped on death, and players will not lose the special ammo they earned when they are defeated or revived. Earned special ammo will carry over between rounds, and swapping the double primary weapons to special ammo will reset the player's ammo meter progress. Special weapon damage, of course, there is more things that have been tuned and association. Then some nerfs for specific exotic weapons, and we'll go over this because it's important. Fighting Lion got reduced damage versus players in the Crucible by 20%. Devil's Ruin's laser beam was reduced by 15%. Crimson's flinch is reduced by 17.5%. Forerunner's damage versus players is improved by 20%, and Symmetry's revolution damage against players improved by 16%. Now, some general fixes to weapons. Fix an issue where players who have unlocked a weapon pattern via Ribbon's wishes and do not own the Forsaken pack will now be able to craft said weapon. Fix an issue where players could swap weapons faster than intended with a combination of grenade or grapple ability. And fix an issue where bonus damage from the Surrounded perk would apply to not apply to a rocket, basically rocket pistols. Then, some variety changes. This is PvE, so I do care about it more. Heavy burst hand cannons. Fixed an issue where heavy burst hand cannons had 25% less aim assist than other hand cannons when hip firing or airborne on mouse and keyboard. Bows generally got reduced aim fall off. Well, actually, no, this I think is still Crucible. Let's see. Breakneck got the missing 12th perk to Breakneck's column. Lightweight scouts increased base damage by 5%. Sniper rifles reduced auto aim by 10%. Rocket launchers, they basically made them more unique. Increased reserve ammunition by 2 and reduced damage penalty by 10 to 5 for tracking rocket launchers. High impacts increased the reserve ammunition by 2 and now deals more area of effect damage and less direct impact for roughly the same total damage. And above, both affect Deathbringer, Gallowhorn, and Truth. Now some changes to Heavy Grenade Launcher. Increased reserve ammunition by 6 rounds at 0 inventory stat and by 10 rounds at 100. Reduce Spike Grenade's impact damage buff from 50 to 12.5%. With the below changes, this reduces the total spike damage buff from about 8% to 3%, making them less required. Increased direct hit damage by 10%. Increased detonation damage by 5%. This is offset by a 5% reduction to detonation damage in PvP. Increased heavy wave frame grenade launcher by 20%. And increased heavy wave frame wave width by 40%. Caster Swords got a reduced heavy attack energy cost from 5 to 4 and increased damage by 16%. Now, for exotics specifically, Vigilance Wing now has a deterministic recoil pattern. Vexmith class has increased aimed at sights damage fall off. Basically, it shoots farther. Witchsender's True Sight will not deactivate if the player leaves ADS or holds it for longer than 3 seconds. To reactivate, you have to fully redraw the bow, but again, only for 3 seconds. Edge of Action added damage resistance against combatants in PvE, which is basically Titan Glaive. Manticore now must be airborne for half a second and deal damage with the weapon to activate the perk. This prevents accidental activation from running down the stairs or doing small jumps. Special reload to disengage anti-gravity. While anti-gravity thrusters are engaged, combatants will be less accurate when targeting the player. In the Catalyst, final blows and sustained damage will grant a void overshield and return ammo to the magazine. Exterius got increased impact damage versus PvE enemies by 50%, increased maximum fire rate by 16%. Conditional Finality fixed an issue where the freeze and ignition effects could sometimes be applied at extremely long distances. And Operate Perfected fixed a flashing photosensity issue when firing the weapon. For specific perk buffs, Heal Clip now grants cure times 2, previously to the player and still by 1 to teammates. Trench Trail can now be activated by dealing damage with range melee. Bale Constrictor no longer deactivates upon firing a shot and lasts for 7.5 seconds. Loose Change. Applying a elemental debuff now increases ADS, or aim assist and ADS movement speed in addition to reload speed. Dual Loader removed the reload speed penalty completely. Text Bound Stock now grants additional range and hipfire precision in addition to other effects. Envious Assassin is now capped at 100% of the mag size instead of 150, and Overflow is now 3 times the mag size instead of 4. So, there you go. Bait and Switch reduced damage buff from 35 to 30%. Want to Punch now correctly deactivates after dealing damage with a powered melee attack. Hake Breach Ornaments Deconstruct Sundering now work with Void Souls, Strand Clones, Cabal Projection Shields, and Briggs. While Hake's origin trait got damage bonus versus Stasis Crystals reduced a little bit for some reason, even though that's the only thing it really had going for it. Deconstruct updated the perk's description to correctly state that it pulls ammo from thin air, not reserves. Also updated Deconstruct to work on fusion rifles and weapons that deal splash damage, corrected an issue in preventing that perk from activating on enemy constructs in the Crucible, fixed an issue where Deconstruct would not work as expected when dealing explosive damage, or fixed an issue where Deconstruct ammo refund was not correctly working on fusion rifles. For Sundering can now trigger on shield break in addition to final blows on vehicles and constructs. Added a small reload speed scaler and reduced charge rate benefit to account for higher uptime. Sundering buff is no longer active when weapons are stowed. Hatchling, basically, nerf. Activation no longer activations are no longer locked to... Oh, wait, no. This is actually the changes that are good. Activations are no longer locked to the archetype in terms of precision or non-precision. Previously, a scout rifle could only activate the perk from a precision kill. Now scout rifles can be precision kill or 3 rapid non-precision kill. Target lock now deactivates later in the magazine for submachine guns at 20% instead of 12.5. Mods, major respect, fixed an issue where mini-bosses were incorrectly included, and boss spec now incorrectly increases damage versus mini-bosses. Then, seasonal weapon focusing, fixed an issue where the wish weapons and undying wish engrams did not reward a weapon if the player had already unlocked all crafting patterns for weapons and contained inside. Almost there, folks. Into abilities. Fixed an issue restoration and radiant buffs were being reapplied rather than giving their duration extension. This also resolves similar issues with shorter restoration and sources like Sunspot. Ember of Empyrean is now increased from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. Reduced timer extension granted per solo kill to compensate for the drastically improved consistency. Previously, this granted a flat timer extension, regardless of type of target. Now this varies based on the target's tier, with lower time extensions returning for minor combatants and higher for champions and alike. Ember of Mercy now grants a flat 2 additional seconds to the player's active restoration or radiant timers, rather than refreshing its duration. This value is increased to 3 seconds with Ember of Solace equipped. Threaded Spectre. After creating a Spectre, it now applies the same dodge cooldown penalty as Ensnaring Slam. Increased detonation damage versus PvE targets by about 25%. In addition, Ensnaring Slam reduced the duration of dodge cooldown penalty after performing Ensnaring Slam in PvE activities by half. Threadlings. Reduced base damage versus players from 40 to 35, and fragment enhancing damage from 45 to 38.5 against players. Note unchanged in PvE. Fixed an issue where Threadling Destruction Impulse that was looking for other Threadlings have standard fall-off, so they weren't really reliably popcorn detonating as intended when one was destroyed. Fixed an issue where Threadlings were sometimes not playing their disruption performances when destroyed. Increased aim assist target size from 0.41 meters to 0.5. Arcane Needle. Increased aim assist angle by about 50%. Increased aim assist fall-off distance from 30 to 45 meters. Increased tracking angular velocity by about 5%. Increased length of projectiles tracking shape. Note, these changes resulted in improved tracking consistency at all ranges, with the greatest improvement felt at close to mid-range targets. Fixed an issue where doing those uncharged melee kills while Arcane Needle is equipped resulted in the player appearing to freeze in a melee pose. Consecration. Increased primary scorch ground follow-up projectile travel distance from 18 to 20 meters. Increased height of slam ground follow-up destination by 1 meter. Travel distance of slam ground follow projectile increased from 16 to 20. Increased travel speed of slam ground follow projectile, including Pyrogale's enhanced version, from 16 to 24 meters per second. Gunpowder Gamble. Reduced maximum self-damage detonation by 33%. Fixed an issue where Omnioculus melee energy return perk was unintentionally being reduced by the melee's ability chunk energy scaler, and now returns its original energy values when making allies invisible. Fixed an issue where Flashbang Grenade was receiving less chunk of ability energy from perks than intended. And fixed an issue where Rally Barricade was receiving more chunk energy from perks than intended while Bastion Aspect is equipped. Bounties and Pursuits Armor Synthesis has been reset, so more transmog ability. And in general, the last column. Added a new text chat command called clear when used will clear out the text chat on screen. Multiplayer emotes added during Season of the Deep, Season of the Wish, and Season of the Witch will now properly display in the chat messages when used with other players. The Veteran's Flare Transmat effect can now be acquired from collections and equipped to ships by those eligible to use it. The Laser Cutter ship has a missing engine component restored. The dual emote can be properly acquired from the special deliveries vendor in the tower for players who claimed it in associated Prime Gaming drop. The general triumphs for each ritual weapon ornament are now correspond to the correct ornaments.
Players must now be present during the first place of the activity to get the Deathless Triumph to Guild the Champ title. Something related to Guardian games, surprisingly. Players or Festival of Lost quests that were not completed should be correctly cleaned up from the player's inventory. Champions will no longer spawn in the Vanguard Ops playlist version of Sios Battlegrounds. Wait. Oh, how about that? Players would no longer be awarded a second Veil Spectrometer consumable on subsequent characters after completing the pursuit. And Take Out the Trash emote no longer allows the players to hide in geometry. Oh, that was a lot of talking, and I apologize if that ran long, but I skipped over what essentially wasn't that important because Crucible Balance will always be borked. But to that respect, that is everything that was updated with this day. Now, of course, there's still more of the season in the future. However, this is pretty much everything that was adjusted with this update. In addition to Guardian games and everything else, my name is Matt Scorpion, and thank you for watching.